Welcome to the Midwest Education Technology Community Podcast, otherwise known as METC. METC is a nonprofit organization based out of St. Louis, Missouri, with a mission to motivate, engage, transform, and connect all learners to advocacy, partnerships, and professional learning opportunities. METC is a premier affiliate of ISTE. To learn more about METC, follow us on social media at METC EdPlus. You may also check out our website at metcedplus.org. METC is a program of Education Plus. To learn more about Education Plus, go to edplus.org. This is the METC Podcast. Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Lee, and I am your host. We have another great episode for you today. I am actually currently at the METC Summer Institute. This is our second annual Summer Institute, and we've got a couple special guests that came in, and one, and his name is Steve Dembo, and so he had some time today to stop in and chat with me about Makerspaces. And so this episode is all about Makerspaces and what is a Makerspace, what isn't a Makerspace, and so Steve shares some great ideas and tips and ways to get started with your Makerspace. So check him out, connect with him, enjoy the episode. Be sure to check it out on metcedplus.org with the About tab. And you can also check it out at metcedplus.podbean.com. Find all the show notes on our website, metcedplus.org, and connect with us there. So enjoy. And I will catch you after the episode. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the METC Podcast. I am here with a special guest. Last episode, we moved beyond the city limits of St. Louis. This time we're going well beyond St. Louis. We've gone beyond outside of the state, actually. And I'm being joined by Steve Dembo. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, please?
Absolutely. So I used to teach kindergarten. Then I was director of technology. I worked for 10 years with Discovery Education. And now I'm off on my own with my own business, Teach 42 LLC. Doing some presenting, doing some working with ed tech companies, and also serve as the president of my local school board, Skokie Morton Grove 69 in Illinois.
Okay, very nice. So we didn't go too far, but we did go outside of Missouri. So now in Illinois. So you taught kindergarten?
I taught kindergarten.
Wow, how long did you teach kindergarten?
About 4 years. Not long enough.
Ooh.
Never quite gets out of your system.
Is that what the gray hair's for?
Hey, I couldn't believe they paid me to do it.
Yeah, I taught 5th grade, and we had buddies with kindergartners, and that was 30 minutes once a month, and I told my kindergarten friends, I said, this is all I can handle. I thought, those kids, man, they make you run for your money, I tell you that.
Yeah.
So, well, that's awesome. So you went from kindergarten to instructional tech leader.
Yes. So basically, the way I always put it is someone figured out that I knew how to fix a website or tweak a printer or something like that, and then it all goes downhill from there. So served for about 3 years in that role, and certainly enjoyed it, but spent way too much time with the boxes and wires for my liking.
Yeah,
so
I understand. Well, that makes sense with our topic today, makerspaces in schools, because I've talked to many kindergarten and 1st grade teachers, and they're like, "What is makerspaces?" So really, it's what kindergarten, 1st grade teachers have been dying to bring back to the classroom.
Yeah.
It encourages play and a chance instead of worrying about tests and all. I mean, talk about it a little bit before I...
Well, it's funny because a lot of times people look at a kindergarten room and they just see kids playing and they think, oh, that must be really simple. Just let the kids come into the room and say, go off and have fun. There's actually a lot of time and effort that's put into structuring that play so that the things that they're doing are actual positive learning experiences. They're building blocks. They're planting seeds. Anyone who's had to put together centers or there's a lot to making sure that the kids have the experiences they need, so they can kind of keep building off of them. It's not just incidental. If you kind of look at the Montessori approach and so on, I think that they have the right idea in terms of that you're trying to get the kids to build schemas. And it's the same thing with the makerspaces now. Yes, you want them to get in there and just play, but ideally you want that play to be a bridge to doing more serious things. It's the play that's going to lay the groundwork for it and build the schemas and so on. Obviously before they can do anything sophisticated in terms of wiring, they got to learn how to make a bulb light up. Fine, so let them play around with it, make a bulb light up, make a digital greeting card, so on. But then down the road, you want them to start learning how to do something more sophisticated, and it's the play and the fun stuff that's going to lead the way and open that kind of thing up.
Absolutely. So the purpose, if you had to put a purpose to a makerspace, would be?
It's to get kids to start thinking of themselves as, I don't want to just say makers, but engineers in a sense, engineers in sort of the more classical sense of the word, as creators, as problem solvers, to stop taking things for granted. And unfortunately, it's sort of a mental hurdle that's very, very, very hard. It's a mental block that's hard to break through because of the way we've kind of structured their experiences while growing up. But also, once you do break through, it's one of those those switches that you can't switch off, and it will impact every single thing kids do from then on out. They will question more. They will push more. They will not just accept the status quo. You know what I mean? And that's what we want out of our students.
Nice. So if I'm a kindergarten, first grade, really any grade teacher, but I started out with kindergarten, first grade teachers. So if I'm one of those teachers, and I'm like, okay, I want to put a makerspace in my classroom. What kind of goals? What do you think I could accomplish with my students by adding a makerspace component to my room?
So the trouble with answering that question is when we say makerspace, it's such a broad term, and you will get people that say, well, makerspace could be anything.
That's true.
And it can be, but then trying to say what the goals of the makerspace are is going to be very relative. We were watching a keynote from Chrissy earlier, and she was talking about her makerspace, and there's a lot of different cardboard and tape and so on. And really what that does is it gets the kids to start thinking of themselves as makers. It gets them to be a little more resourceful. It gets them to start thinking about the materials at hand and what they need versus just what they have and so on. I like starting off with just cardboard and tape and scissors and so on. And, in many classrooms, the kids are very used to, we're going to make a snowman. Here is your orange triangle, your orange triangle that you're going to use for the nose. Here are your black circles that you're going to use for the eyes. And, you follow step 1, step 2, step 3, and you will have a snowman. Well, that's great, and their project they will be very proud of, and it will go on a refrigerator somewhere. But the kid didn't make it. They followed the recipe. Yeah. There was nothing creative or open-ended about it.
Almost like a craft.
It is. That's exactly it. And you want to... There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of things that you can teach through that, and there's a place for those kinds of activities. But you also want them to have the opportunity to be open-ended. And open-ended with a sense of permanence. A lot of times kids can be open-ended with the blocks. You know what I mean? They'll take the blocks, they'll make a big castle out on the floor, and then 20 minutes later, it's the cleanup time. It's cleanup song, and the guy knocked down the blood. There's no sense of permanence. It's nice for them to be able to make something that they can hold on to and then maybe even continue building beyond the bell schedule. All too often, our projects are restricted to 20 minutes, 40 minutes, and so on, or maybe just one specific unit, and there's very little for the kids that's open-ended that they can kind of keep coming back to time and time again. So I think that's a fine place to start, and if nothing else, the kids get a chance to kind of express themselves a little bit more freely. There's benefit out of that, and of course, if we're talking about early childhood, there's a lot of different fine motor, gross motor, the skills that are going to come out of that. But at least that's a starting point.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the morning keynote this morning, and you talk about open-endedness of a task or part of the makerspace, and I think that the more open-ended is, the less control the teacher has.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's part of that whole message we got this morning was you've got to let go of the control and let the kids be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and I will say it's becoming more and more important and more viable right now in that all too often the teacher will think, all right, here's what I want the kids to learn. All right, now and then they're going to say, well, now how do I want them to demonstrate it back to me? And they'll come up with an idea or a project, and then you get 20 kids who are all doing the same thing, maybe with slightly different flavors, but they're basically all turning in the same thing.
Yep.
And we're in a situation right now, we've got so many digital tools and access to so many different resources. I think that's a very dated idea. I think we can definitely have kids be a little bit more open-ended in terms of the way they turn things in, whether they want to do it as a paper, whether they want to do it as a digital book, whether they want to do it as a blabberize or as a digital project or a digital story, whether they want to make something physical using a makey that's interactive, and so on. There's just so many different flavors that to restrict them to just one way to turn something in, it's fine to have a suggestion. It's fine to have a default if they want to, but I really do think we should be encouraging our kids to be going off the grid because we want them to be creative and to be demonstrating their knowledge in innovative ways.
Yeah. I typically started off the year by getting them to turn projects in with certain apps, or it needs to be this way, just because they didn't know how to use those particular apps. And then usually we hit mid-year or so, we had enough projects or units under our belt that they can just say, okay, you know the different ways available to you, just go. And the first time I said that, the students kind of like, so what are we supposed to make? Right. I was like, you decide. And so they were just blown away by that flexibility, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of just the schema of school. Kids are not used to saying, a teacher turning to them and saying, all right, you just prove to me that you learned. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. Demonstrate it for me. They're used to saying, a teacher saying, this is how you will prove it to me. And that's very limiting. It's very limiting. We got some kids that are extremely creative outside of school, but then when they get into school, they slip into that follow directions mode.
Yeah. And the best part about the whole process was really the presentation part, because not only was it not boring for me to see 20 of the exact same project, but like you said, tweaked a little bit, but to hear students go, "Ooh, we can do that next time." Yes. And because they saw so many different ideas of ways to present the information, like, "Oh man, I wish we would have done that." And so they were primed and ready to start the next unit, next activity, and so that just made it so much worthwhile.
Well, and then they'll start challenging each other. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The peer pressure will be to try and top each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love that. Normally they don't get that.
Yeah.
Normally there is no pressure because everyone's going to be doing it exactly. Everyone's making a diorama, so everyone makes a diorama, and there's no impetus for them to really go above and beyond, short of those few kids that get really excited about making something with clay. But let those kids still make their diorama, but let the other kids make a stop motion, or let the other kids make a digital story or a rap song or something else. So long as at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is, can the kids communicate what they learned effectively? And if the answer to that is yes, it doesn't matter what kind of box or bow they put on it. You know?
So we're going to talk about where to start, because we're in July, and teachers, of course, now aren't thinking about coming to class, but they're going to start thinking about coming back to school and want to get started. But before we start going into what to bring and how to start Makerspaces, what isn't Makerspace? We talked about it briefly. We kind of touched on a couple things. It's not crafts.
Yeah.
But what isn't Makerspace?
See, and that, once again, it kind of all gets back down to your definition of what a makerspace is or isn't, and unfortunately it's way too open-ended a term. So, people will say makerspace could be just about anything. To me, really, the big key to makerspace is it needs to be student-driven, and the students need to have permission to use everything that's in there. If the students aren't sure if they're allowed to take the little bits out and put it into their cardboard creation, then it's not a makerspace. Do you know what I mean? Same thing with the 3D printer or the CNC machine. If the students can't do it independently on their timeline when they come up with an idea, then to me it's not a makerspace. It's just another teacher-driven learning lab. I mean, to me that's sort of the key. There needs to be the drop-in ability. There needs to be the ability for the kids to keep coming back to it. The kids need to be able to get hands-on it themselves. And yes, obviously some of this requires scaffolding, but there shouldn't be a question of can I or should I. That's one of the biggest things about it. My biggest frustrations is, the makerspace is closed unless your teacher says, all right, now you have permission to make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that would be very frustrating. That would limit the kid's ability to meet its purpose. I mean,
absolutely.
So, all right, good. So now we're back where it's August, per se, September, and I'm excited. I want Makerspace in my room. I want it organized, of course. No, it doesn't have to be organized, but I want to do this in my room. How do I get started?
So, listen, there is an almost infinite amount of things that you can add to your makerspace or that you can purchase. And we get that question online all the time. I got $1,000, what should I buy? $10,000, what should I buy? And so on. I'm a firm believer, the makerspace is more of a mentality than anything else. So I personally would start off cheap, and I would cardboard, tape, scissors, the basic supplies, and then mix in some wires, some copper tape, some coin batteries, some LEDs. This is all stuff that you can buy in huge amounts of bulk for absolute dirt cheap. And then the kids don't need to ask, is it okay if I use a red LED? You say, go ahead, use as many as you need. You know what I mean? I would start off there because you can then always expand outwards. I like also stocking up, supplies that can be very flexible with a number of things. Things like the Bare Conductive makes a paint that is conductive. There's a lot that you can do with that. The Makey is obviously very flexible. There's a lot of different things you can do with that besides just plugging in bananas. Hyperduino for some of the older students, that's a very flexible platform, or the Hummingbird platform, that is a very flexible platform. I like those sort of open-ended things. And then, if budget allows, 3D printers, CNC machines, those things are all well and good. Just think through how you're going to manage them and how you're going to get them in the hands of the kids so that the kids can be the ones who are really driving those kinds of things. You can always keep building upwards. Start off simple and get the kids in there and having fun and making stuff.
Yeah, and I also wouldn't forget your parents.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of the stuff you mentioned are probably stuff that you would find in a junk drawer or around the house that parents want to get rid of anyway.
Absolutely. And tell them don't throw away those soda bottles, don't throw away those empty tape rolls or toilet paper tubes and so on. Those are all maker supplies.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about early childhood, when those early those youngins. There's a group called Adventure Sandwich. They make a web cartoon and such, and they come out to some of the different toy fairs and so on, and they will fill up a room. I don't even know how exactly. Let's say about half the size of a classroom, and they'll put in some like a castle, and they'll put in like a spaceship, and they'll put in a couple other things, and then they will just fill the rest of it with cardboard and scissors and rolls of tape and so on. They'll just lay it out there, and you don't need to tell the kids what to do when they walk in there. They know what to do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And I've also heard a good suggestion of, you may have $1,000. Doesn't mean you have to spend all $1,000 right away.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to get into that space, and October time, you're going to say, you know what? Oh, I wish I would have had this, and I wish I could buy this, or something as simple as a basket to put in all of your diodes or all.
Absolutely.
All the stuff you won't think of. So don't be afraid
there's a lot of things that are really great things in a maker lab, but are also relatively closed ecosystems and are very expensive. They will only get you so far. There are things like, I love Little Bits, I love Sphero, I love Dash and Dot and those kinds of things for teaching coding, and so they will get you from point A to point B And if that's what your expectation is, that's where you want the kids to go, absolutely, it's all well and good. But you just have to understand it's not necessarily going to be an open-ended system where they're going to be able to keep doing that throughout the entire course of the year. Eventually, they're going to kind of run out of steam on some of those things. Or they're going to want to build things that are just slightly beyond that sort of closed ecosystem. So it's just something to keep in mind. I also recommend, I can't speak for every library in the area, but our public library now has to check out sets of Little Bits and Dash and Dot and Ozobots and Osmos and all these different things, and they're home kits. So people can check them out and take them home and use them for a couple of weeks, or Makey-Makeys and so on. So at least that way you can get some time on them before you start investing your own money with them.
That's pretty cool. So check out your local library and see what they have. I wouldn't have thought of that because I have been to my local library, but I don't know if they have anything there.
You know what? If they haven't gone that route yet, they might be thinking about it. Yeah. I would also talk with them.
Okay.
But more and more libraries are seeing themselves as community hubs, and they're also realizing that whole maker idea is going to be core to them too. They come there for knowledge, and they also have a way to kind of apply some of that knowledge with what they learn there. Nice. So, yeah.
Okay. So as we come to the end of our time here for this episode, what kind of maker secrets or tips do you want to share with the audience?
So I'll give you just one tip that is something that's been on my mind a lot, and that's related to 3D printers. 3D printers are very, very hot right now. A lot of people are investing into them. My one piece of advice is don't get a 3D printer if you don't plan to allow the students to be able to print independently, and if you haven't thought through that sort of structure. Because all too often, you get the printer, it takes so long to print something that they say, all right, all the kids are going to create something right now, and then the teacher in the evenings will print and print and print and print and print, especially because of noise or this or that. And then the kids get it, and they get to hold it in their hands, but you kind of lose all the benefit of the 3D printer because there's no prototyping, there's no iteration, there's no changes, there's no way for them to hold what they've got in their hand and say, oh, this is too big, or this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And so there's no way for them to go back to it. Mm-hmm. And that's more because of the structures or red tape that we kind of put on ourselves. So if you're going to go the 3D printing route, make sure you come up with a plan so that students can print again and again and again and again, because once again, back to that mental schema, we want the kids to see themselves as engineers or as inventors and so on. That is an absolute critical part of the process, and if they don't have that capability, well, then it's no different than just making a snowman with a couple of orange triangles and black circles again.
That can go in the fridge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's awesome. Thank you. That's a good tip. I definitely would be the one staying after school, printing all those projects for students, and that would defeat the purpose. So
it does.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, Steve, I thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure.
I greatly appreciate it. Before we sign off, can you go ahead and share your contact information and how people can connect with you?
Yeah, if you go to, I'm Teach42 on anywhere. TEACH, the number 4, the number 2. If you look me up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and so on, look up Teach42, you'll find me, or my website and blog is teach42.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Great talking to you about Makerspaces. And remember what Makerspaces are, and remember what they aren't. You have to let go of that control and let your students take control of their learning. So enjoy, and great talking with you. And until next time, see you later. And that puts another episode in the books. I want to thank again Steve Dembo for joining me, taking the time. He's doing many different sessions today at the METC Summer Institute, and he only had one or maybe two downtimes the whole 2 days, and he took one of his downtimes to come talk to me. So I greatly appreciate that. He's done a great job here with us, and I've only been able to be in the session a couple minutes, and I learned 3 different apps that I want to check out already. So not bad for 2 minutes and 3 apps in that amount of time. So great job. And so hopefully you got a lot out of this episode. Don't forget to connect with him. Connect with us as well, METC Ed Plus on most social media sites. Check us out on METCEdplus.org is our website. Get more information there. That is where all of our show notes will be for this one and all the previous episodes. Don't forget you can find us on Google Play and iTunes. Please rate us there. Let us know how we're doing. That rating helps other people find and pick up our podcast. So please do so. So again, thank you for listening. I greatly appreciate it for any support that you give us. And until our next episode, have a good one. Thank you for listening to the Midwest Education Technology Communities Podcast, otherwise known as METC. To learn more about METC, check out our website at metcedplus.org or follow us on social media at METC Ed Plus. Learn more about Education Plus at edplus.org.